As many of you know, the Hall of Fame opened its doors back in 1963. So that means we've been here in Stark County for 47 years. And we're soon to celebrate our 50th anniversary coming up in 2013. Many of you may also know the reason why the Pro Football Hall of Fame is in Canton. 3 quick reasons, one of which is that even before the National Football League was founded, this area was a hotbed, in fact, the cradle of professional football. We had teams like the Canton Bulldogs, who were world champions, and we had great players like Jim Thorpe from this area. Additionally, you may know that in 1920, the National Football League was actually established in a meeting held in downtown Canton, Ohio. So that's another historical reason. But from a Chamber of Commerce perspective, I think the most important reason why the Pro Football Hall of Fame is located in this area, and that's because the businesses and the civic leaders and the citizens of this area promised the selection committee that if the Pro Football Hall of Fame was placed in this area, that our communities would support it like no other community across the country could. And I think we have kept that promise. That's why it's here. The hall has grown from initial 19,000 square feet in 1963 to now over 83,000 square feet. It's become one of our country's major tourist destinations. We have about 200,000 people who are in the building each year as visitors. And that's in addition to the 700,000 who come to Stark County to participate in annual enshrinement ceremonies, and millions more who interact with us via the internet or the television broadcast. We also interact with literally thousands of students at the high school and pre-high school levels. You wouldn't normally expect the Hall of Fame to have a vibrant youth education program, but we do. And teachers send their students to the Hall of Fame on educational field trips. Last year, over 10,000 students attended. And then in addition to that, there were 8,000 students from 24 states who participated via distance learning. Obviously have the world's most significant collection of pro football artifacts and historical documents. And we do face a challenge in this area, a challenge that I suppose most museums face, and that is how can you properly preserve for future generations all the documents and artifacts that are in our collection. And one of the challenges, one of the issues that makes that challenge even more significant for us is that when our buildings were built, starting in '63 and in the subsequent additions, all of those buildings were built to standard commercial, retail kind of HVAC system. So we don't have a museum level of control of the humidity and the temperature and the lighting. And of course, that's anathema to the documents. So we are in the process now, phase 1 of upgrading the facility so that we will have that level of protection of the artifacts very soon. In 2008, we opened 2 new galleries, one called Moments, Memories, and Mementos, and the other called Pro Football Today. The first one, actually both of them are galleries that are made much more vibrant than they used to be by incorporating video and sound into the museum display. So that whereas before you go and look at a football on the wall and you read the plaque below it that says, this is the football that Johnny Unitas threw to break a record, 40,000 yards in a career. Now, what young people like, as opposed to reading that plaque, you go and you see the same football, but you push the button on the kiosk, and then you see the game where that pass was thrown, and you see Johnny Unitas actually throwing the pass where he broke the record. And the referee grabs the ball and hands it to him, and Johnny flips it to a guy on the bench. And then the video fast forwards to Johnny Unitas many years later, and he said, the only thing that ever mattered to me was whether we won or lost. I never cared about the records. And I think that makes that artifact much more memorable. And it makes, as I say, it sort of makes the artifact come to life by the incorporation of video and sound and the voice of the Hall. Many of you would know that Lamar Hunt had a great deal to do with establishing the Super Bowl game as a championship game, and he was the actual person who named it. And so his family made a very generous contribution to the Hall of Fame so that we can upgrade our Super Bowl gallery, including this room that includes the actual Lombardi trophy that will be presented to next year's champion. We have an agreement with Tiffany's. Whenever they make next year's trophy, they ship it to us. We put it on display so fans can go and have their picture taken not with a replica, but with the actual trophy that will be presented to next year's winner. And then, close to Super Bowl time, we have the Brinks truck drive up, we ship the truck or the Super Bowl trophy down to wherever the game's played next year in Dallas, and then we start the process over with a new trophy. The next slide, you might recognize the young man in that slide. We also have artifacts in this gallery. This particular one features the jersey that Alliance native Lenny Dawson wore when he quarterbacked the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl IV and achieved the victory over the Minnesota Vikings. Here again, in this gallery, you can go up to a kiosk and push the button and see highlights of any of the Super Bowl games. Or you can go into the big IMAX-sized theater and see highlights of last year's playoff season, as well as highlights of last year's Super Bowl game. So it's pretty exciting. Established a traveling exhibition program. And this exhibition on your left is one that's titled Football in American Spirit, and it portrays the 1,200 players, coaches, and owners who served in the U.S. military during times of conflict. Some of them you know, like Roger Staubach, but many of us would not know that Tom Landry flew 60 missions over Europe in World War II. And a lot of this is actual video footage that we're able to get from military folks, so that's incorporated in that exhibit. The next exhibition that is under design right now is titled The Road to Equality in Pro Football. And it highlights some of the trials and tribulations of African Americans in football and the non-African Americans who helped pave the way to improve the situation to what it is a year. Some 85 to 1 year we had 130 returning Hall of Famers who came back to welcome the new class into the Hall of Fame. No other sport has an enshrinement ceremony that's nearly this spectacular, and no other sport or Hall of Fame enjoys the relationship that we enjoy with our Hall of Famers. And that relationship is enhanced in great part by the warm hospitality that you all extend to them when they come. We've all heard it 1,000 times, that they feel that this area is a second home, and they're treated like royalty, and that's why they continue to come back. We have made a number of investments to improve the stands on both sides, the concessions, the restrooms, and most recently we updated the press box, including the communications technology inside that stadium, so that now Fawcett Stadium continues to be by far the #1 high school stadium in the country. Not only does that help us in terms of our relationship with the NFL, keeping that Hall of Fame game here, but it also helps John Geist and his group from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, as he was down in Columbus earlier this week, trying to win the bid to keep the Ohio High School Athletic Association championship games here and other marquee events that are held there in the state. Much of the success of the Hall of Fame is due to the strong support that's been provided over the years by people throughout the community, people like yourself. That's why when Sheila and Mark asked me if I might stop by and talk about activities at the Hall of Fame, I jumped at the chance. First of all, to say thank you and to remind you that it's important that we continue to provide support. We do face challenges as we move ahead, not only the challenges of the economy and the challenge I mentioned, for example, to upgrade the heating, ventilating, air conditioning system so that we have a proper facility for the artifacts. But like any organization, you can never rest on your laurels with the expectation that success will continue to flow. We'll have to do different things, just as we're doing different things in terms of our national outreach. We'll have to continue to depend upon people of this community to visit, to have your friends visit, to participate, to volunteer, and to continue to support us. I think in some ways the Alliance Chamber of Commerce and Pro Football Hall of Fame are involved in the very same effort. And that's the effort of enhancing the quality of life of people who live in our communities. The Pro Football Hall of Fame, I think, enhances the quality of life through things like sports education, entertainment, those kinds of aspects of life, while the Chamber and business organizations that are part of the Chamber provide employment, economic development, and other aspects. But we both play, I think, a very important role. I think also that we are fortunate, certainly would agree with me on this, I know, in this community that we have many organizations, many businesses, many individuals who give their personal time, talent, and treasure to help improve the quality of life of their fellow citizens. And as we work together, we just make it a better place for all of us. I'm delighted to be a part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and hopefully part of making this community a better place for all. Thank you all very much.